This week's podcast is proudly sponsored by the Philips OLED+935 TV, a new flagship OLED TV that combines the new AI Plus P5 processor with sound by Bowers & Wilkins to once again push the boundaries for outright picture and sound quality in a premium TV. To find out more, visit philips.com/OLED+.
Hello and welcome to the AVForums podcast, streaming live on Wednesday, the 21st of October. I don't need to tell you it's 2020. And joining me in this edition, Steve Withers.
Borg sounds Swedish.
Ed Selley.
It's a primitive culture. I'm just trying to blend in.
Tom Davies. And Kaz Harlow.
If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand.
Do you want to switch your mic on, Tom?
All that time you were sitting there with your mic on.
Absolutely fine. And it's
basically, this is the equivalent of when James Hunt used to commentate on Formula One. Basically, I heard a story about Murray Walker. He'd be in the commentary booth, all preparing for it for days and days. James Hunt would walk in 5 minutes before the race started, sit down with a glass of wine in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and go, "Right, Murray, who's on pole?" That's basically how this thing starts, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I am here. I do exist.
All right. Okay.
Well done.
Do you want to do your line?
Oh yeah. Oh, you broke your little ships.
There we go. Right, so we're streaming again. Thank you very much if you are joining us live on YouTube. It is appreciated. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and all the rest. You know what the score is. And, of course, you can put your questions and so on into the chat window. If you're listening at a later time, not watching us live, but you're listening to us on Spotify, iTunes, or any other podcast provider, welcome along to the podcast. It is appreciated that you're here. Of course, you can take part. Obviously, you can't do it live, but you can send us an email to podcast@avforums.com with any questions or comments or feedback or anything like that, where we are happy to listen to you or answer your questions. And, of course, we try to make things better. We try to improve our editorial. We try to improve our videos. And one day we're going to do a decent podcast. And if you want to... Yep. And if you want to support us, you can, of course, sign up to Patreon, which is patreon.com/AVForums. It's £3 a month for that. If you want to support us on a regular basis and you enjoy the podcast, then head over there and sign up. And, of course, if you want to ask a question or just want to donate anything between, I think it's £5, £10 and something else, you can do that or even choose an amount through streamlabs.com/AVForums. And like I say, that's a perfect way for you to get your questions answered live by the team tonight. We haven't had much in the way of movie questions over the last few weeks. We've got two of the movie team on the podcast tonight, so let's have some movie questions. Get those in and get some donations in with that. Since we were last live, Sam Vincent has become a patron. Thank you very much, Sam. As has Mark Bailey. He's also become a patron. He says, thanks to Steve for answering my questions on the Q90T TV and the Q950T soundbar discount offer. He said, that's appreciated. So, thank you, Mark, for becoming a patron. Right. Also, if you feel inclined to support us, it helps us grow AVForums, and like I say, site speed and all the rest of it. And we've got a new feature to demonstrate for you tonight. So I'm just gonna wait. Yep. Even the team don't know about this one. Myself and Stuart have been keeping this one quiet. So, right, we're going to demonstrate this live.
This doesn't involve nudity, does it, or anything like that? Because
it doesn't involve what?
Nudity.
Oh, you should be so lucky. Right. So, like I said, we were always working on AVForums. Stuart and the team are always working on the back end and trying to improve how the site looks and so on, speed it up. And we've got a new feature that we can announce tonight, which is dark mode. So, you know, most websites are white background and text and all the rest of it. And of course, as we've been saying when we've been talking about bias lighting and other things, white light can either work for you or against you in terms of, and it can become quite tiring, especially at night on a mobile phone and so on. So we are introducing dark mode. And to operate dark mode, you just need to go down to the footer on any page and click on normal style. And when you click on that, it opens up a window and you can select dark mode. So you select that and then save it, and it should turn your whole page nice and dark like that.
Like the next one be Gangnam Style.
So it's a new feature. There may be one or two issues with some text against the background. If you find anything, head over to the feedback forum and let us know, and those will get changed straight away. We've made a few changes today just by having a quick cruise around the site. But if you do find anything, give us some feedback. So there you go, new feature.
There aren't any issues. I'll eat my hat.
Oh no, like I said, we've been fixing some of them today that have popped up. So like the header text in the reviews was too dark.
So I never say anything useful in there anyways.
It's like, how much more dark can this be? None more dark.
Right, okay, so what we've been up to this week, well, Tom hasn't been on for a while. So Tom, what have you been up to?
I've had a pretty quiet couple of weeks. Just, it's been a bit weird. I've had a bit of an up and down one. I have been engaging in some lively debate on the Haunting of Bly Manor review.
Yeah, which I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, I saw last week. I mean, good. I'm glad people are getting something out.
I accept the fact there's some very dodgy accents, particularly she's a good actress, but Carla Gugino's northern accent is well dodgy. And coming down to London, and it's clearly been shot in the US.
Bad.
It's verging on that.
But unfortunately, she's narrating the entire series, so not a great choice. And it's clearly been shot in America.
Yeah, Canada, I think. But the accents are annoying. I can get past crappy accents, but I didn't get it as a whole. But I've enjoyed talking to people about it, so that's always good. The other thing that I haven't done yet, but I will be doing, is I've got a new thumbs video, which I'm going to be recording probably Friday, so that'll be coming out, I don't know, a little after that. And if you're a patron,
you have to be quick growing that beard then, if you're gonna, continuity wise.
Oh no, you know me. I don't care.
Yeah, I was going to say you did have a full beard the last time I saw you, didn't you?
He just keeps it in a drawer.
So you've also shaved.
Yeah, I did do that.
He's gone for the Mike Myers look tonight.
Yeah.
You look about 20 years younger without the beard, and you didn't look old with the beard. So
back to
embryo is going to turn up next week.
It's going to say minus figures, Steve.
I'm just jealous. Don't worry, I'm just jealous. I've got no hair and I can't grow a beard. What I can grow turns out to be orange. So
Steve Withers, human egg.
That's a look.
It's not a look.
Yeah.
Well, it is a look if you're in Ireland, or Scotland maybe, but it's not a look I'd recommend. It's not a good look anyway.
Other than that, I've just been playing video games.
Sorry to all our Irish
video
and
games.
Scottish listeners.
Don't worry about them. Don't worry about them. They're fine. They're thick-skinned, the Celts.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But yeah, that's me. Nothing interesting. Move on.
Okay.
Are you in lockdown, Tom?
No, not at all. We're in the lowest. We're in tier 0. We've not even heard of the coronavirus.
Oh,
around here.
excellent. Well done.
Yeah,
you.
it's pretty good.
Yeah, same where I live. Basically, it's kind of like what? What's going on?
Okay.
Well, are you in lockdown, Ed?
No, it's tier 1. Situation grim, but
buggered.
grim, but allowed to go to the pub.
So all of us, apart from Phil, I think, are in tier 1, right?
I'm tier 2.
Yeah. Kaz, you tier 1?
I have
You're
no
Reading,
idea
aren't you?
what
Must
tier
be.
it is.
He never leaves the house. It doesn't matter.
I'm in
I don't know what day of the
Mortimer.
week it is anymore.
I'm in Mortimer.
I only know it's a
and
Wednesday because we're doing this.
it's a village and
Nothing ever happens.
nothing.
Nothing happens at all.
You just get up and play Every Day is Exactly the Same by Nine Inch Nails on loop.
Right. Okay. Kaz, what have you been up to?
I've been working and playing Exploding Kittens. For those who have not played Exploding Kittens, you should play Exploding Kittens. You don't know what this is, do you?
Possibly got time for that, Kaz.
I've got kids.
Oh, okay.
Exploding Kittens is a game
You mean
which
you've been entertaining your children
Yeah.
or distracting them with Exploding Kittens?
it's basically like I don't know a safe word version of this. Bleep head. Okay. It's basically like shithead, except with different cards which have all got different things that you can use as actions. So for example, you can play Nostradamus, Nostradamus, which says stop your move, or you can skip your turn. commandeer a bunny raptor. And the idea is to avoid an exploding kitten. The exploding kittens look like that, and they tend to blow up spaceships. And you can diffuse them using various tactics. We've got a kitten yoga here. And you just play the cards. And if you don't have the cards...
It's a lot like life, is what you're saying, Kaz. It's a lot like life.
It's absolutely tremendous. It's really surreal. The options are great. It's a really very addictive game for grown-ups. And obviously it's got exploding kittens in it, so the kids love it. It's great. Turned my life around. And distracted me somewhat from my top trumps.
Yeah, what are trumps?
Well, I have got some, but I'm a little bit behind.
I think it might be time. I don't now want to see more of this project until it's completed.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to see the real deal.
See you in 2025.
I did put the DeLorean in, and my son was particularly upset. He insisted on the DeLorean going in, but he's particularly upset that it doesn't quite look like the one in the movie. So,
I mean, the real one was just a terribly unsporting mess, but you know, it needs to be in there. So
yes, I'm wondering whether to have the speed as 88.
Well, that's about all it was good for.
Yeah, I think it was. But other than that, obviously watching Back to the Future and trying to persuade the kids to watch it. I mean, they absolutely love it. But then when they get distracted by...
They don't want to see it for the 56th time, do they, basically?
They've never seen it.
How can they absolutely love it if they've never seen it?
No, they love the first... They love it when they're watching it, but then when it's not on, it's like, I actually want to watch an episode of Teen Titans. So,
did you know that they had to make the speedo for the DeLorean in the film because the actual DeLorean speedo only goes to 85 miles an hour?
No way would that ever reach 88 miles an hour, was it?
Well, no, it was a fun fact. For years, American cars were only sold with a speedo that went up to that. It didn't matter how fast they were technically capable of going, but because the speed limit was only...
I just knew that Ed was going to ruin a gag with a piece of really boring information.
Yeah.
It's a joke, Ed.
But actually it was 85 miles an hour, and they had to design one. Then lots of DeLorean owners now try to recreate that, seemingly. So my dream car, that, even though it is a piece of shit.
Well, there we go.
I just think it looks great. Right, so as you can see, lots of boxes behind me. I haven't made too much progress actually, because the two Samsung TVs next to me here, they arrived just as we went on the podcast last week, and they've sat there in the boxes because on the Friday, let me get out of the way. So I've got a Philips OLED 935 on the new stand behind me. So I've been using that. I was away for a couple of days last week. Well, Thursday I was away all day, and then Friday I had that TV turn up and I had to set that up and all sorts of other issues, and then had the weekend off. So I've only really been spending the last 2 days with the Philips. We'll come on to that in a little bit. And what else have I been doing? Not a lot. I'm going to the dentist on Friday, which I'm a bit scared about.
When was the last time you went?
A bit anxious. Well, I was supposed to go in March, so I had the first few appointments, and then they cancelled the last two. I've already paid for them, and I wasn't too keen on going. And I said they phoned me up, and I said, "Well, I'm not really keen. Can I delay it?" And they said, "Yeah, but we'll have to write this treatment off and start again," which meant I would have to pay again, and I've already paid for the stuff. So
mandatory root canal for missing so many dentist appointments.
So, well, that's what it was, Tom. It was root canal. So.
Oh, no.
So I've had the root canal. It's just finishing it off, and I haven't finished it off. So he put a cap over it and never finished it. So I've got to go. But I felt like I was being threatened, basically. It's like, you've got to come in or we're going to write this off and you'll have to pay.
To be fair, if they do threaten to knock your teeth out, they probably know what they're talking about. So, just throwing it out there. They can
put them back in again afterwards.
Well, for a fee.
Yeah. So apart from that...
drumming up business by punching people's teeth out.
No, I just thought it was a little bit odd because of the whole COVID thing and all the rest of it. I would have thought they would have been a bit more forgiving, you know what I mean, and say, yeah, fair enough, you don't have to come in at the minute, but no. Yeah, so that's about it, and I'm thinking about moving the Mustang on. So,
well, yeah, but it's not like you're suddenly going to buy a Brompton folding bicycle, is it? Are you going to astonish people with what you're thinking about buying? Is it another
DeLorean, apparently?
No, no, I'm not going to buy it to load. I did get offered one that lived along the road, and no, serious money for one of them. No, the fact is we're in lockdown. It's coming into winter. It's sitting at the side of the road. It's not going to get used. It's not going to get used probably next year, because next year's not going to change much.
How many miles have you done this year, out of curiosity?
You'd be surprised, Steve, because in March it was sitting on 11,000, and it's now sitting on just under 17,000. So I've done 6,000 miles this year.
I've had the same tank of gas
5
all
miles.
year.
You've got to be careful; it goes off. I'm not being facetious.
Yeah, it goes off.
So,
no.
You know.
So yeah, I'm thinking about moving it on, and then maybe getting another one further down the line when I can use it, because it just seems pointless sitting at the side of the road and not being used. So that's what I'm up to, Steve. What about you?
What have I been up to? I'll tell you what I did. I've been, and I don't get too shocked, everyone. I did a bit of gaming.
Steady.
What?
I bought the Star Wars Squadrons PSVR game because I've been waiting for a PSVR Star Wars game.
Oh, I like the look of that.
Well, yeah, but see, I just want to fly and shoot shit. Basically, that's all I want to do. I don't want to, it's way too complicated. I don't want to be worrying about whether I've got to angle my deflectors and charge up the main gun and sort out the deflector shields. I don't want any of that. I just want to fly around and shoot things.
Star Wars flight sims have always been like that, though.
I know. I
like
haven't played one since the GameCube's Rogue Squadron, whatever it was called.
Oh, those were good games.
Which was a great game.
Super simple, though. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. That was nice and simple. I just want to fly. Now, there was a Rogue One mod for Star Wars Battlefield. And that was a PSVR game, and that was great because it basically just flew around and shot at stuff. And that's all I really want to do. This was far too complicated, so it's a bit infuriating. The graphics are great. It's really cool flying around in an X-wing or a Y-wing or whatever. But I can't be bothered with all the complexities, and I can't look down at my hands to see the controls because I don't use controllers much. And I'm rubbish at it. I don't instinctively know where the buttons are. So. And when you're wearing a PSVR headset, you can't just look down at your hands because you can't see your hands. All you can see is your flight suit. So yeah, that was what I've been doing a bit of that, but I was a bit annoyed because, like I say, I found it too complicated.
There are some borderline old person complaints about computer games in that.
Oh no, big time. I haven't really got past Manic Miner from 1984. So, but yeah, I've had a go at that. I've got a bit after about an hour or two. I basically threw it in the corner. For that, I probably won't use that PSVR again for another year. And I decided, for reasons best known to myself, to watch all the Exorcist movies.
Good.
Starts off well.
I've been trying to get Kaz to do the same thing. It goes great.
Exorcist, genius, brilliant, absolute classic.
Ever.
Exorcist 2, what were they thinking?
And then Exorcist 3 is like maybe my favorite ever horror film.
Exorcist could have been good if they left Exorcist 3 the way it was originally made.
Yeah, as Legion.
Forcing it to do an exorcism at the end.
Yeah, you can get that. The Arrow release of Exorcist 3 includes Legion on it.
I watched both versions. I'm not mucking about. I watched Exorcist and then the longer version of Exorcist, which is okay in parts, but the upside down spider walk thing is crap.
Okay, Steve, which is the best Exorcist prequel?
Oh, well, Dominion.
Yeah.
Again, they made one film, and then if there's no exorcism in this, you've got to bring in some. Yeah, it's insane how often they mess up a film by demanding they stick an exorcism in it because it's called The Exorcist. The Exorcist 2, though, is just absolutely batshit crazy.
It's beautiful.
And I love John Borman's comment about maybe I should have thrown a few more Christians to the lions. Yes, it's just absolutely bonkers. And you're thinking like, I would give anything to have been in the cinema when the audience saw that, expecting more of The Exorcist, and they didn't get any of that at all. They got a film that barely qualifies as a horror film, to be honest. I don't think it even really is. It's more of a sort of a treatise on what is evil.
Yeah. There's a lot of borderline outright racism in it as well.
Yes, and cruelty to locusts.
Yep, lots of cruelty to animals. Good times.
And a machine that reads people's dreams. It's science fiction. It's just bonkers. It is bonkers. And poor old Richard Burton, when they just wanted a paycheck and a drink.
It has got one of the scariest moments in all of the Exorcist movies, which is where they strap Regan to the machine, the brain scan, the MRI. Is it like?
That's in The Exorcist.
Is it?
Yeah, the Exorcist.
Oh,
when they strap her and they did a spinal tap and all that stuff.
You are right.
That's what makes The Exorcist so good. Is some of the really horrific things in it are actually the medical procedures that are done absolutely, accurately.
Oh, I've embarrassed myself. I need to go back and watch it myself now.
Now, the most scariest thing Exorcist 2 is Regan's tap dancing.
Right. Okay. So Steve's just been watching movies, which is nothing unusual. It's just what you do, isn't it? Ed, what have you been doing apart from listening to music?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a big part of my existence. I did look baffled. Well, I look baffled most of the time. But if you were wondering why I looked suddenly very confused a couple of minutes ago, my son came downstairs, went into the kitchen, turned the light on, put something in the bin, turned the light off, and left the kitchen. And I've never, ever seen that sequence of events happen before in the entire time he's been alive. So I was really quite surprised by that and wondering what they've done with my real son. But no, that's all fine. I've been doing some work for you guys and some other people. I've been making more soup because it's the winter and that's what I do. And I've been watching bits of telly here and there, which I dare say we'll cover at the end of the month or later on. But yeah, same old, same old. Good spread of things to for coming up for the next set of reviews. There's some good ones in the tank already as well. So
has a nuclear bomb just gone off outside, Ed?
I don't know what goes on with that. It's because the cat's moved.
Just a shadow left behind them.
It's because the cat moved. The reason that there's a sofa, you can see part of the sofa behind me because she's bulged it. If I turn the background off, she's literally just behind my head, and she's just moved again. And obviously because she's got white and stuff like that, the camera's gone whoa and responded quite heavily to that. So that's what's going on there. I'm sorry. It does say never work with children or animals. And on a Wednesday night, I actually work with both. So yeah, just work on the principle that I'll vanish at random points, but I should come back.
Yeah. Well, I'm expecting you to vanish in about 8 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
Tom's here, so Tom can do the competitions.
Oh, sure. Okay. We've got quite a few going on at the moment. We've got the opportunity to win a copy of the Back to the Future 4K trilogy, which closes on the 20th November. We've got an opportunity to win Vikings Season 6 Volume 1 on Blu-ray, which closes on the 9th. You can win a copy of Yield to the Night on Blu-ray, which closes at the end of this month on the 31st. Copy of Jewel, that's the crazy Japanese cover, which if you like it, you're crazy as well. That closes on the 30th of October. The Jaws one, which is slightly less obnoxious in 4K, that closes on the 6th of November. Batman, Death in the Family interactive movie on Blu-ray closes on the 6th. Copy of Eureka's Made in Hong Kong set on Blu-ray, that closes on the 25th of October. Finding the Way Back on Blu-ray, which closes on the 25th as well. Criterion's October titles on Blu-ray, which includes The Life and Times of Harvey Milk, Eraserhead, and Topsy Turvy. That closes on Bonfire Night, the 5th. And a copy of Whiplash on 4K Blu-ray, which closes on the 23rd of October. All competitions are open and to eligible AVForums members resident in the UK. And there will also be an opportunity to win a copy of District 9 on 4K if you stay tuned to the end of the podcast. Previous winners. Let's have a look. We've got a few. JMB 1962 won a podcast exclusive Sony Blu-ray bundle, which was Greed, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Bilbro won a podcast exclusive Sony Blu-ray bundle, which was Venom and Close Encounters. Gaza Boy won a podcast exclusive of You Should Have Left on Blu-ray. And Little Go's Twin won the 3-film Superstar DVD bundle, which is Dreamgirls, Yesterday, and The High Note.
Retro. It's always nice to end on a retro note. Right, so that's competition. That's what we've been up to. We'll be back in a sec with hardware. So moving on to hardware, and Ed has been looking at some earphones, any earphones, but they're not your normal earphones, are they, Ed?
No, far from it. This is the second product we've looked at from Nura, who they still make, first of all, the over-ear Nuraphone noise-cancelling headphone, and now they've shrunk all that down into the NuraLoop earphone. Now, this is a weird product, but weird in this case does not mean bad. Nuraphone's USP is that when you put the earphones in for the first time, you install their app, and essentially the NuraLoop will make a series of weird noises in your ears, and it measures the reflections of those sounds back from the drum by 2 microphones, and then maps the output of the earphone to match the response of your ear canal. And then, having tailored it, essentially that you're good to go, and you can adjust the amount of customization that it applies. Now, I'll start by saying that there are a couple of questions that I had with the original that I still have with this. It's almost impossible to listen to the product in a completely unmolested state. When it finishes doing the listening measurements, you have the option of listening unmodified and modified, but they've made it sound so bad I can't believe for a second that that's actually what it sounds like unmodified. But nevertheless, it does genuinely seem to work quite well. The other thing is that, exactly like the Nuraphone, the NuraLoop is noise cancelling, and the integration of that noise cancelling is absolutely sensational. There's no tonal shift at all when you activate the noise cancelling facilities, and that really is unusual, and it's extremely effective. There are some standard Nura oddities. The Nuraphone has got a full-size headset on that goes over the ear, and then a probe that goes into the ear canal, and these are basically just the sort of like the probe of the Nuraphone, and they've got these weird half dome rubber tips which look like instruments of torture, but they actually work extremely well. There are further curiosities. That cord, as you can see in the photo, and you'll be able to see in photos of the review, the cord that links the 2 earpieces together is extremely short. You will feel it on the back of your neck, unless you're one of the photo models used in the stock photos, who I can only assume has a sort of shrunken head. But those are the downsides. The flip side to that is that once you actually got them in and you're set, they're extremely comfortable. Noise cancelling is sensational. The customization works very, very well. Bluetooth is unconditionally stable, and they're genuinely excellent to listen to. Really, really good fun. I'd avoid pushing the customization option too far, because it's designed to emulate live performance, and they clearly go to different live performances than what I go to, because it's sort of heavy dub is what sort of eventually happens if you push the sliders all the way. But keep the sliders at a sensible distance, and they are exceptionally capable. They are £200, but there do seem to be some offers doing the rounds for so to pay a little bit less than that. There's a limited edition white finish coming out presently as well, and they are one of the review products where they've turned up, and without thinking, they have been the earphones that I've had in my pocket for when I've been out and about, supplanting a rather more expensive pair of wireless earphones that I'd been using up to that point, because the noise cancelling is so effective that I can wander around the supermarket with my mask on and my earphones in, and I don't have to care about anyone else, which is absolutely ideal. They also have a control interface. If you tap the Nura logo on the outside of the earpiece, you can have functions for single tap and double tap, and then a sort of rotating gesture. And that works extremely well, except that if you are in public and somebody catches sight of you making a slight rotating gesture on the side of your head, they're going to take offense to it. I can speak to that from personal opinion. It's not something I necessarily recommend, but the device itself is really very, very good indeed. Nura is 2 for 2 on interesting product now, so we'll see what else they've got to sort of come out with. But I was a bit slow on the uptake. Phil was pointing this out before we went live. I was a bit slow on the uptake with the Nuraphone. I looked at the press release, and I just thought it couldn't possibly do all the things that they said it could. So I was a bit slow on that, and now I've corrected that with the NuraLoop, which has been out for rather less time and is a much newer thing. So hopefully the review will go up presently, and it covers off some of the more detailed bits about the measurement. You can see some of this screenshot requirements of the app, of what it's doing, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I was genuinely impressed by them. It's a very, very clever product. And if you are, I mean, it's an odd thing to say in 2020, but if you envisage a time when you will be going back into commuting through crowded environments, just the effectiveness of the noise cancelling and the customization means that you would be foolish not to look at them and give them a trial.
No, they do sound really interesting. I haven't actually had the product in my hand. I haven't used it, but reading the original press release that came out with them, it just sounded like really, really interesting text. It's nice to see that it actually does what it says on the tin. It does
largely what it says on the tin. As I say, in a perfect world, I'd love to be able to sit down and listen to a completely unameliorated pair. And also, weirdly, I mean, hygiene considerations, I'd love to listen to a set which had been customized for somebody else's hearing just to see how different they were. The only thing I would say is that the customization only works on a device which has the Nura app installed on it. Now, with that being the case, I usually will test Bluetooth headphones and earphones by pairing them with my LG TV, because that's got really good Bluetooth. But it can't run the Nura app. So unfortunately, it was running in the this is what it sounds like with no processing mode, which if you do habitually wirelessly pair with your television, would be something to consider. And whether I'm the only weirdo that does that, I don't know. But just one thing to consider. But provided you can install the Nura app, you've got full control over them.
Okay, good stuff. Like Ed said, the review will be up this week for that review, probably over the weekend actually, because we've got quite a few things. We've got some Halloween movies coming, don't we, Kaz? We've got a full article about that, so that'll be coming up. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Simon put a list together for 4K discs and so on. So
discs, Netflix, Amazon, he's gone the whole hog.
Yep, good stuff. So keep your eyes out for that. Right, so let's move on. Steve, let's go to you, because you've actually got a really interesting product. I'm not saying the Philips is not interesting, it's just I haven't reviewed it yet. So let's go and look at the Denon AVC-A110 anniversary product. The photographs look nice. Supposedly, it's based on the 8500. I use the 8500 as my reference.
When you say it's based on the 8500, yeah, it's very based on the 8500. I mean, it does have some slightly upgraded components inside, and obviously it's got I mean, it's still the same basic shape, but it's got it's got a gorgeous finish and design in terms of the cosmetics. But essentially, it's an X8500. With a few tweaks, and also it's got 8K pass through, so it's got an HDMI, an 8K HDMI input and 2 HDMI 8K supporting outputs, a la the current recent lineup of Denon and Marantz products, like the SR 7015 that I spoke about. Was it last week? I think it was. So it's got that, and the 8500 doesn't currently have that, although there is an upgrade path coming, I believe, towards the end of this year. I think it's going to be about 500 quid, and they'll add a new HDMI board, which will include 8K pass through. So it's already got that. But otherwise, it is essentially an X8500, but it's been pimped up by Denon as an anniversary product, as a special edition product to commemorate their 110th anniversary. So you get a lot of stuff in the box that you wouldn't normally get. It's a double-line box. It's got like a certificate of authentication that comes inside. There's some postcards, various bits and bobs that to give it that special edition status.
Is it limited, Steve?
Yes, it is limited. Yeah. I don't know how many though. I didn't say. I'll have to see if there's a number in there. It is limited edition. That much I guarantee. And clearly that. When they were designing it, or when they were giving the design a tweak, they had one eye on the past and some of the classic AVRs of Denon's past. Excuse me, thinking of things like the A1, that kind of stuff. And certainly, from my perspective, having been a Denon owner in the past and always been a fan of their AVRs, it did bring a nostalgic tear to my eye looking at it. It is a beautiful piece of kit. It weighs a ton, the question everyone's going to ask is, I mean, there's obviously one. One's, I think the current price for the X8500 may have gone up recently in price. I think it was about $2,500.
It's $3,500 now.
It's $3,500 now. This is $5,000. So there's still a £1,500 price differential. And even if you count, an extra 500 quid or something like that for the HDMI board upgrade. Still £1,000 difference. So is it worth an extra 1,000 quid? I think if you were looking at it from the point of view of your heart, you might think, yeah. And if you were thinking about it from the point of view of your head, you might think, The thing is, people are going to say, is it sounding different? Well, I reviewed the X8500 2.5 years ago, more than 2.5 years ago. You've got an X8500 at your place, so it would have made more sense for you to review it because you could have compared directly, but obviously as anyone taking a look behind you can see, you're a bit busy right now with other things, so I got it instead. So I did review the X8500, but it's been a long time since I heard it, so all my comparisons are based purely on my very old and tired memory. It sounds fantastic, but then the X8500 didn't sound bad either. So it's difficult to say if there's any real perceivable difference. I know it does say in this, it's been the A1000 has been tuned. The A10 as though it's A110 tuning, it says on the marketing, which is like, what? So do you tune the rest of your stuff to sound crap then? It's a strange thing to say, because it's just like it's tuned differently from the rest of their products. But why would you do that? So I mean, if people like the sound of a Denon, why would you change the sound of a Denon? It's got, in terms of as with the X8500, it's got 13 channels built in. It's got 13.2 channel processing, Odyssey Room EQ. It's got Dolby Atmos, DTSX, Auro 3D, IMAX Enhanced, HEOS multi-room system. I mean, it's got all the bells and whistles in there. It's absolutely packed.
DTS X Pro, is that on there?
Yes, that's in there as well. Yeah. So it's no question it's a feature packed. Is the 500 got DTSX Pro? I haven't looked.
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to upgrade it or not. It doesn't at the minute, as far as I'm aware. So although it's been sitting on the floor for the past couple of months because I've got the Langdorf and the NAD in, so it hasn't been getting much listening recently. But I
think the interesting thing is that the X8500, when it came out, which was, like I say, over 2.5 years ago now. I think I reviewed it in February 2018. At the price point it was released at, it was I'd say a game changer, but it was a real standout product because it had 13 built-in channels. It was processing 13 channels. It had all the sound formats. It had all the features you could imagine. It was a real standout product, which is why at time we gave it a reference status badge, but it would have been a best-in-class badge really now. That's what we were awarded, because it was the best in class at that price point. Now, when you go to 5,000 quid, suddenly the A110, that's up against things like the Arcam AVR30. That processes 16 channels. Yes, it's only got 7 built in, but it can process 16 channels. It's got Dirac Live. It's got other features. So it starts to look less of a standout product because it's up against some very classy competition at that price point. So I think, whether you get one or not, it's going to come down to how much of a fan you are of Denon, how much you like the styling, and whether you feel that an extra 1,000 quid or whatever is justified against just an X8500.
It's a nostalgia piece. It's there for obviously their anniversary, but at the same time they're aiming it at old school AV guys like us that are nostalgic for this type of thing, because we used to have these types of flagships on a regular basis from Pioneer and Denon and Marantz and all sorts of other companies, Onkyo and so on, and it's died out. You no longer get the big custom built AVRs anymore. And the 8500 was a bit of a change, and now, like you say, the A110 limited edition, that finish looks gorgeous. It really does.
Yeah, if you've got the money and you're looking at a Denon high end, one of their flagship. I was going to say receiver, but it's not a receiver. It hasn't got a built-in tuner, so it's actually an amplifier. But if you're looking at the X8500, and you've got the extra bit of cash, you've got the simple, the convenience of already having the 8K pass through there. You haven't got to worry about getting it upgraded, which means sending it off and everything, which can be a bit of a pain. Plus, there's additional costs associated with that. You've got the gorgeous design. It's built like a tank. They have upgraded some of the components inside. It is an absolutely gorgeous, awesome piece of kit. I don't think you'll be disappointed. But obviously, if your budget's a bit tighter, then clearly you're probably better off just getting the X8500.
We almost certainly missed this, but how limited is limited? Do we know what?
I don't actually know. I was going to look it up later on and see if I can find out. It just says I know it is limited edition, but I don't know how many units is limited to.
They won't divulge in any numbers, really. I think they'll build as many as they can sell.
One per person on Earth, strictly limited.
Probably quite a few knocking around there, I would have thought.
Yeah, it looks like a cracking
You
product.
can't win with limited editions, though. I mean, because if you do too many of them, people go, well, that's breathtakingly cynical. But then if you don't do enough of them, people get genuinely annoyed. So, there's no every now and again, someone gets it exactly the number right. But for the most part, they don't.
Well, it's,
one thing they have done with the design, which I quite like, just because it makes a nice change, is the front fascia it's clean. There's no badges on it, so it's like normally it's festooned with all these different manufacturers, Dolby and all this stuff. It's just they kept it all clean, which is quite classy. The display is white, which is also quite a nice offset against the what do they call it? There's a damn, I've forgotten the name now of what they've called a color scheme. No, basically it's like a gunmetal grey, but it's a really
carbon grey, wasn't it?
Carbon, that's it, carbon something. It looks fantastic. One issue I've always had, I don't understand why they do this, but if you get around the back, there's an absolute massive connections. But do you need 3 component video inputs? Do you need 3 composite video inputs? I don't know. I haven't used either of those connections in about 30 years.
Yeah, so that was one of the beauties of the NAD. You took a first look at it and you think, oh, $2,500, there's not many connections, but actually there's just enough for what you actually need.
What you actually want.
If you got too many of them, like you say, legacy connections. Can't remember the last time I actually looked at a legacy and used a legacy connection. So there you go.
I miss S video switching. It just said I have a lot of games consoles.
I'm glad you called it S video, which is the correct terminology. Everybody used to call it SVH. No, it's not. It's S video. No, I'm really going back in time there, aren't I? Right. Okay. So we'll wrap up hardware by having a look at, well, it's my initial impressions of the Philips, because like I say, I've only really had 2 days to spend with it. I have not calibrated it yet. So I've just been using it in the out-of-the-box presets. They say this year that that movie is filmmaker mode. I checked that and everything is switched off. It does look like it is doing filmmaker mode. Like I say, I haven't measured them quite yet. So that's that. The big thing here is design. It's a beautiful looking TV. Really, really nice TV. And it comes with the Bowers & Wilkins soundbar. And the issue with the thing with the Bowers & Wilkins soundbar this year is they've redesigned it. And it actually looks like a Bowers & Wilkins speaker now because it has the tweeter on top. And if you know anything about Bowers & Wilkins hi-fi and gear, and especially the speakers, you know that is a trademark of their brand, is to have the tweeter on top. So this soundbar has it. They've redesigned a lot of the drivers. They've redesigned the way that the bass ports work. It actually sounds really good bass-wise. Obviously, it's not thunderous bass. It's not going to be competing anyway with a separate sound subwoofer or whatever. But it's certainly a nice full-bodied sound. It has upward firing speakers, which obviously can work with Atmos, but they seem to be on most of the time, to be honest with you, with anything. So it gives a nice, wide, spacious sound to the TV. I've got the 55-inch, which is why it looks tiny behind me there in the room. I've got so used to having 65 inches around it. Going back to 55, it appears to be small, or that's certainly when you go down a screen size. It's never going up a screen size, it's always going down a screen size that you notice most. But it's a beautifully designed TV. And I've got to say, with the new stand that I have behind me as well, it just all ties in really nice. The silver finish to this speaker. They don't want to call it a sound bar. Bowers and Wilkins, when they've been demonstrating the TV and so on, they've been at pains to say it is not a sound bar. It's a speaker. And it's great. It sounds fantastic. It's a luxury item. It's a luxury TV. It's the top of the range TV from Philips this year. The 984, which was the flagship that Steve looked at last year. I believe that still remains in the range as a flagship, but it doesn't have the upward firing speakers and so on. So this is an improvement on what went last year, because I reviewed the 934 last year. So from what I can tell so far from using it and so on, no issues with it. It looks fantastic. Picture quality is excellent. Picture processing is a big thing with Philips, so I'm going to do lots of testing with that. But essentially, it appears to be the same as the OLED 805 in terms of picture quality and so on. But the P5 processing has a little bit more. There's an extra chip added to to the processing on this TV. It adds a little bit more in terms of AI and so on, which obviously I'm going to test out as well, and we'll see what differences that makes. And of course, the 805, when it came to HDR, it was fantastic in terms of peak brightness. It measured almost as much as the Panasonic. I think it's about 800 or just under 800 nits. So it'll be interesting to see if it measures the same. So yeah, it's fantastic looking TV. It's a luxury TV. It has ambilight, and it has 4-sided ambilight. So it actually has the lights on the normal 3 sides, so the sides and the top, but also has it on the bottom now, which, with the way that the speaker is connected to the TV and it acts as a stand, it actually looks really nice having ambilight underneath the TV. It gives it a different sort of floating look to it. So yeah, excellent TV. The full review will probably be next week. It'll give me time to get measured and test it out and do the usual bits and pieces. But yeah, I don't think Philips gets the kudos they deserve these days, because the TVs over the last few years have been just as good as the Panasonics and LGs and Sonys. I would say Philips have really been pushing it in terms of picture processing. So if you're the type of person who is maybe not like myself and Steve in terms of a purist, but you want decent motion, decent picture processing, and so on, Philips do it better than anybody else in terms of the picture processing. Motion, I would probably still give that to Sony, but the Philips is right there with all the other screens out there. So I'm not really sure why there's still the stigma around Philips that certainly in some of the forum conversations, people tend to dismiss them quite quickly. I wouldn't dismiss them. They are fantastic. And like I say, this is a luxury product, the 935. It looks fantastic. It's well built, really nice. And of course, it's got the Bowser Milk and soundbar as well. So real quality when it comes to sound quality. So like I say, full review probably next week. And the written review will be up there as well. If I look a little bit distracted, just because for some reason there's been internet connections and so on. Certainly at this end, I don't know if it's affected what you've been seeing or hearing. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it hasn't. Right, so that wraps up the hardware reviews. There's just a little bit of news really, and that was LG Display have teamed up with Disney Studios Studio Lab to provide their OLED screens and tools to Disney. It's a little tie-in. It's kind of doing the same as what Panasonic and Sony do for film studios in terms of giving them OLED screens and so on. What drew my attention, Steve, was the fact that you have people who are mastering movies, who are doing color grading and so on, basically saying that they feel that OLED is the technology that best matches what they're seeing in terms of what they want the content to look like in terms of per pixel, dynamic range and so on, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from what I understand, a lot of HDR grades are only 1000 nits, quite often less than that when the DP or the colorist or whoever's doing it is doing the grade, that they tend to not use the full 1000 nits a lot of the time anyway. So you don't need a massively bright display, and if you're getting the pixel accuracy of an OLED as well, and obviously the perfect blacks, and an accurate color gamut, then clearly they're more than happy to use OLEDs. I mean, I guess they're using a combination of displays. There'll be professional monitors, which were OLEDs, but are now going to be what the dual LCD on there, I think, these days.
The Sonys are, yeah. The BVMs are, yeah.
So they'll be using, I'm almost certain they'll be using those as well. But what they need is a larger display, because if you're talking about a sort of 32-inch, was it 32 inch, isn't it? I think you have one, didn't you? What screen size was it? 32 inch, am I right?
What, the
that
BVM?
Seems so tiny now.
Yeah, it's 30 inches, yeah.
Yeah. That's quite small. And obviously people are watching on much larger displays. So they need a larger, accurate display in order to look at things on, say, a 55 or 65-inch screen. And that's where these, what we, more commercial displays like the LGs or Panasonics are being used in these mastering suites, because they need to see it on a larger display as well. And that's obviously what this deal's about. But I mean, I think most of the ones I've been in, I mean, granted, I was taken there by Panasonic, so that might explain it. They were usually Panasonic OLEDs that were being used as the large monitors. A clearly LG are now doing this deal with Disney, and I think Samsung have been doing stuff with Fox in the past, although that is now Disney, of course, with some of their QLED displays. So yeah, it seems like the colorist's display of choice is OLED.
Yeah, and the studios that I've been in and grading suites that I've been in, apart from one which was using the Dolby Pulsar is the main display, because the Dolby Pulsar is a bigger screen, 4,000 nits, and it's again dual LCD. Most of the others have been the larger screens that they've been using have been OLEDs. So it is interesting that the industry's going with that technology, and of course. Yeah, great marketing for LG as well, isn't it, really?
I think that's the main thing, isn't it? They've given them a load of TVs for nothing. And they're getting... But I think, yeah, if you're doing a 4,000 nit grade, you would have to use the Pulsar, because that's the only thing available. But what I'm assuming is that given the proliferation of regular OLED TVs in, well, not regular OLED TVs, but OLEDs in a lot of these mastering suites, suggests that they are actually largely doing 1,000 nit grades or up to 1,000 nits.
And of course, these manufacturers as well, Sony and Panasonic and so on, they will do not consumer versions, but roughly the same TV, but designed for the professional side of things. And if you actually look at your TVs this year, you will see professional modes in there. So certainly on the Panasonics, you can switch off the tone mapping and then decide where you want the hard cut to be. So you decide the clipping point and so on, which is all designed for studio use and so on. So it's interesting to see that OLED is the screen of choice when it comes to the larger screen testing. So
this is all well and good, Phil, but when am I going to get a C11 series with Mickey Mouse ears in the corners?
I don't know.
That's surely where it breaks down to. Where is my mouse ear option? So that's the only reason you'd go in on Disney, surely. I want mouse ears.
Okay, we'll try and get you some mouse ears.
Good.
Just to keep. You got to wear them on the podcast, though.
No, I want my telly to have them. I want them.
Oh, your telly to have them.
Yeah. Oh. So and obviously scaled to represent either 55, 65, or 77 inches. So I mean, the ones on the 77 are going to be big lads. So, but yeah, it will look cool. I'm all for that.
I'm glad to hear it. Right, I think we've been quite quick tonight with hardware. We're actually about 10 minutes ahead of time. Shall we give 10 minutes to the software side of things? I think we will. So we'll be back in a sec with software. So let's move on to software, and let's head over to Ed, because Ed's going to do his music choice of the week. Now, this one has, I'll tell you my little story once Ed's actually told you what it is.
Right, okay. Sometimes when I put the recommendations in, it's interesting music. It's music that you might be able to play, and people think, ooh, that's quite interesting. He must be an interesting person, or they must be an interesting person, or you may use it to impress someone of the opposite sex or something like that. I can probably say with some assurance that ain't going to fly with this one this evening. This is a bit of a surprise. It came out of nowhere. It's Sturgill Simpson, who we've mentioned a couple of times before. Last year, he gave us Sound and Fury, tied in with the Netflix film of the same name.
That was mad.
It was mad. And if you're expecting more of the same, no, absolutely not. This is called Cuttin. There's no G involved in this. Grass Sessions, Volume 1. And it is an album of Sturgill Simpson playing bluegrass with supporting musicians. It is as relentlessly Southern States American as you could possibly imagine. And it's even got him riding a lawnmower on the cover, just to really emphasize that. The thing is,
has he been listening to Steve Wright on a Friday afternoon? Is it a serious jocking, no G? Is that what it's all about?
I don't know. I haven't listened to Steve Wright, but nevertheless, I think this is a magnificent album. The quality of the musicianship and the sheer joy that it has involved in it, nothing can get anywhere near it. I have utterly adored it from the moment I've heard it. I've got it pre-ordered on vinyl. And I will be, it's just absolutely fantastic.
Well, If my neighbours didn't think I was redneck, they'd certainly do now. Or anybody walking past my flat. So I've had it on for 2 days, really loud, and of course, obviously, the Mustang outside and all the rest. They must think, "Oh, that guy's all right."
You're going to get you the MAGA hat, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I would say that the track "Life Ain't Fair and the World Is Mean" could just as well be an anthem for 2020 in the absolute sense of the word. But I mean, as I say, not everything that I recommend has to be
good.
Yeah. Oh. No, this is just take it on its own merits. I mean, some of the musicianship involved in it is absolutely off the charts. And if you do care about these things, the Qobuz option to listen to it is in 2496 as well. So it's a very, very high quality stream. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, if you are unwilling to listen to 54 minutes of bluegrass, Woodkid, who had an album a couple of years ago, that very famous track Run Boy Run, he had an album out this week as well, and that's pretty good, but it doesn't have a lawnmower on the cover, and it's just nowhere near as joyous to listen
and
to.
For those who are not watching the video, when we say a lawnmower, it's like a sit-on lawnmower.
Yeah.
So sitting on the lawnmower and driving it.
Cutting grass.
Because if they're not watching the video, they might think you're like pushing the lawnmower.
No, he's right on. He's made a few bob. He can afford a ride-on lawnmower, and besides some of the acres of lawn that some of these people have to deal with, it's worth having a ride on, I'd say. Okay,
so there you go. Sturgill Simpson's Cuttin Grass, Volume 1, which means there's going to be more volumes, obviously.
Oh, I certainly hope so.
That's Ed's music choice of the week. Does anybody else have any music they've been listening to that want to recommend?
Sure, I've been listening to. Just came out last week, Blue Note Reimagined, which is a bunch of UK modern jazz musicians who are covering trad jazz from 50s and 60s Blue Note releases, and it is awesome. It's just a pleasure to listen to from start to finish. It's there's some interesting reimaginings on there. There's a reworking of Watermelon Man, which is probably the most famous track that's been covered on there, originally by Herbie Hancock, and it's just really enjoyable. It's relaxing, it's interesting, and yeah, if you have even a passing interest in anything jazz, then it is awesome, and I super recommend it.
I thought it was reasonably good as well. I was a bit thrown by the fact the first track is Saint-Germain, which is 1999, and then obviously all the others are much older than that. So, yeah. But yeah, once I re-dialed in, it was a good listen.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else got some music they want to?
No.
Well, I've been listening to Give Me Some Truth, John Lennon. It's been redone, or some of the tracks have been redone in Atmos and on Tidal, and sounds really good. The way they've put it together. I mean, obviously, all the tracks. The album's been around for a long time. A lot of the songs have been remixed, new mixes and so on. So yeah, I'd recommend that one, especially if you've got Tidal and you want to listen to.
Have they sorted the levels out yet, or is it still very low compared to normal?
It's anything on Tidal, Atmos wise, is very low, right. And that issue's still there. That I had updated the software as well on my Apple TV box, but it'll play one track or two tracks and then not play anything else. So it's an odd one. That it must be the Tidal app on there. But anyway, right. So let's move on a tad. Tom's going to give us a quick recommendation for gaming.
Yeah, I quite like my video games. You might have picked up by now, and I've been really looking forward to a release from this year, which is Amnesia Rebirth. It came out this week. How do people feel about the horror genre? Do we like horror TV movies?
I don't like horror anything.
You don't like horror?
I do. Obviously, I just spent a week watching every Exorcist film.
I think I actually prefer horror games to horror movies often.
I'm a huge horror person, and I love being scared, and I never feel scared watching movies these days, and it sucks. And so I have to turn to video gaming in order to get my scares. And so about 10 years ago, there was a game released called Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and you basically walk around a castle. You are hunted by a monster. It's Doom, but you have no guns. It is a running away and screaming in the dark simulator, and it is terrifying, absolutely terrifying. There was a sequel to it a few years later called A Machine for Pigs, where more of the same, but you're running away from mutated pig men. While playing that, I had my wife run into me on a couple of occasions to check I was okay, because I screamed like a 6-year-old girl. So now, sort of 7 years later, they've released another installment, and it's called Amnesia Rebirth. And you play a woman who's an archaeologist whose plane has crashed in Algeria. I can see ears pricking up, but they don't investigate anything. It just happens. They just leave it as is. It's fine. They don't need to find out why. But she retreats to the caverns in order to run away from the heat of the sun. And as she retreats into the cabin, she finds out that she's actually been there for a very long time, and the game is spent retreading your footsteps to essentially find out how long you've been there and what you've been doing for the last week. And it's a really, really well told story. There's a really interesting twist in it, which I won't spoil now, but gives it more of a sense of peril and more of a sense of threat than was in previous games. But essentially, you are walking through pitch black caves with a book of 10 matches and a lamp, an oil lamp, which lasts about 30 seconds once you start using it. And so you conserve these tiny sources of light as you wander through these pitch dark caves. And the caves are full of something, and you do not know what it is. And it teases a lot of jump scares. There are a lot of fake outs in it, so that you're constantly playing it on the edge of your seat. You are constantly scared of what is up ahead or what is behind you. And it'll fake out and fake out and fake out until you think you're finally like, okay, I get the pattern to this game. And then something will happen and you will run and scream, and it's brilliant. I haven't been this scared in ages, and the adrenaline is pumping. And if you are a fan of a horror experience, then I really, really recommend it. It's just out on PS4 and Steam, and I think it's about 20 quid. It's not a lot of money, and it is the most thoroughly scared that you'll be this year.
So, I don't know. Brown envelopes from the HMRC. Still the scariest thing I get.
A lot of truth in that one, Ed. Okay, so thanks for your recommendation.
So I just want to say I'm with Hypnotoad. Resident Evil on the PSVR is the scariest.
Yes,
thing.
Resident Evil 7 on
I just
VR
stopped
is
playing
also-
because I was so bloody scared.
I'm with you on that. I never got. I mean, I got through it playing it standard mode, but VR just half an hour, and that was enough. I had experienced it, and that's
You need to
fine.
wear
Run
brown
out of-
trousers if you're going to
Run
play
out
it
of
in
clean
PSVR.
underwear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will shit yourself.
Okay. Well, highest recommendation ever there then.
Yeah.
You put it on the box. You will.
Yeah,
shit
you will
yourself.
shit yourself. Okay. And it's not because you're old. Right, let's move on. Film reviews. Kaz, what we got?
Right. Well, I had a chance to look at Batman: Death in the Family, which is a new. It's DC Animation Studios' first interactive movie. I'm not a big fan of interactive movies. I remember the Black Mirror episode causing me a certain amount of consternation. I'm not really sure I get much past the gimmick of it, but I found this one particularly good. For those who don't know, Batman: Death in the Family is the seminal comic where basically the Joker kills Robin. And it was
Spoilers.
decided not really.
One of the Robins.
No.
It's not
particularly not for
It's quite well known that he kills.
yeah,
Robin, isn't it?
particularly not for considering it's an interactive movie. So that isn't the.
And
that
he's
is the
holding Robin's
only
body
choice.
on the cover of the box, which is
Yeah.
a giveaway.
So the key to this was they asked readers how they wanted it to turn out, and everyone voted to kill Robin.
Bat nipples.
Unsurprisingly, really.
That's what
Yeah.
more bat nipples, bat butts, backlog pieces. That's what we
Well,
need.
DC was surprised at the time. They had everything set up for a continuing Jason Todd story, and they were blindsided by the fans' hatred of this Robin.
Yeah, they did. They blew him up. But this interactive movie goes one step further, so you can make a number of different decisions along the way. You'd think it was just down to whether or not he dies, but actually there are loads of different decisions, and it's extremely dark.
Is there any scenario where he lives?
There are plenty of scenarios where he lives. There are some scenarios where Batman dies. There are some scenarios, loads of scenarios where he basically goes crazy and kills everybody. I mean, it's very well done. You know, it's a good interactive movie. I think I must have played every single option, and it takes, I mean, it's a 30-minute story. It probably took about maybe 2.5 hours skipping to the choices again. So not watching it all again from the beginning, just skipping to the choice and then making the opposite choice. I thought it was really, really moody, atmospheric, and some of the endings are quite dark for an animated movie. I really liked it. If this is their first option for interactive movies, I quite like that. I mean, they picked a good choice, given that in a way it was an interactive comic when they got readers to decide. So I think it kind of suits that.
Who's voice acting this one, Kaz?
It's not Kevin Conroy. It's Bruce Greenwood.
Bruce Wayne.
who you can probably recognise by voice, but he does a good job. There are lots
Bruce
of familiar
Greenwood
faces.
is Captain Pike, right? In the Star Trek.
He is, yes. He does a good job. He does an older, gruffer Bruce Wayne Batman than Kevin Conroy does. But it was interesting because Conroy, who has voiced Batman for whatever 20, 30 years, 90s, maybe 30 years, and is kind of the definitive Batman.
Yeah.
He actually promoted this chapter in the DC animated universe, so it's a little bit surprising that he didn't turn up, but it's good, it's well done, and it gets you on side with Robin, and it makes you think a little bit about what might have happened even if they decided it the other way.
It makes you like Jason Todd. 10 out of 10, masterpiece.
It certainly makes you invested in the possible outcomes of alternative decisions. It's just not as simple as kill him and everything's okay. And it's quite good because it plays out the normal story from the comic, but it also includes the Red Hood, which is another comic done.
So is this supposed to be
down the line?
Is this supposed to be canon then in this? Because if you're going to have so many outcomes and so many different scenarios.
No, I mean, there's one main through line. If you pick to kill Robin, it will tell you the story of the Red Hood, Under the Red Hood, which is a much more recent Batman comic line that continues the story of Death in the Family, essentially. So it'll play out Batman, Death in the Family, and then Under the Red Hood. But it does it in quite an interesting way, because the whole time Batman is regaling the story to someone, and you don't quite understand who he's talking to or what it's about. But that works quite well. But all the other options provide you with some very violent and very imaginative alternatives.
Canon is a tricky thing for the new DC animated movies.
It's all over the shop.
Well, it really is. But they did have, didn't they, Kaz? Correct me if I'm wrong, but they had like a continuity, and recently ended it with a Justice League movie. And so
they did. Yeah,
just experimenting with bits and pieces here and then, and so either it's all Elseworld stories, or none of it's canon, or it's just all a bit up in the air at the moment.
I think these are just one shots. They ended it with Apocalypse War, I think, which was a great ending for it. And so now I'm quite happy with them doing one shots and having a look at Elseworlds. I mean, it's good that they're digging these out and doing them justice, and it's a proper 15 rated affair. So I'm quite liking that they're treating their audiences with a bit more respect.
Okay, good stuff. Before we move on to the next quick movie review, and I know it's going to be quick because Tom's already told me it's going to be quick. Licensed Taximan says it's talking about scary movies. American Werewolf in London still scares the living daylights out of him. It does me because I think I've told the story before, but when I was a youngster, parents went out to the supermarket, left me with the old Betamax video, and had left a copy of the film. And I decided to watch it. I was under 10-year-old. I must have been under 10-year-old. And watched it and scared the living daylight out of me. And I never slept for months after that. And I still can't watch that movie. There's certain things, it's mainly the dream sequences, where he's stalking the deer and that. The Nazis behind the curtains, and they're watching the Muppet Show. It's like it just, I still get weird. I can't sit through those scenes. Anyway, so good choice there with that one. Right, so we're going to talk about a Netflix movie. Never a good thing, is it? And this is not good, is it, Tom?
Do you know what? I'm going right down the middle with it. I don't think it is a bad movie, but it is certainly not a good movie.
So what is it?
It is Rebecca, the new adaptation of the Daphne du Maurier story that is most famous for winning Best Picture, the only Best Picture Oscar for Alfred Hitchcock. And as beautifully produced as the new version is, and it's directed by Ben Wheatley, so it's produced.
Who I think is a really good filmmaker.
I really rate him. I would say
and
probably.
I met him. Really nice bloke too.
Oh, fantastic! I'm quite jealous. Yeah, he has made some of my favorite films of the last decade, I would say. But with this one, he seems to have been lumbered with a bit of a turkey of a script. The power of Hitchcock's Rebecca, as far as I'm concerned, is in the subtext, is in what is unsaid.
Heavy subtext, isn't it?
Heavy subtext, and everything is tension and menace and what goes unsaid. And this new adaptation goes in the other direction. So subtext becomes text, and it becomes a very straightforward film with a lot of very clear answers, and I find that extremely unsatisfying, because what I want is a bit of tension, a bit of mystery, and a bit of fear, and it doesn't go down that route. It purposefully doesn't go down that route. So there's a review hitting the site. Whenever it hits the site, it's been written and it's waiting to go. But essentially, they have focused so hard on it not being Hitchcock's version of the movie that they've aimed so squarely away from Hitchcock that they don't really know what they're aiming towards. And it becomes a bit of an unfocused, a beautifully shot, beautiful movie, but a bit of an unfocused mess. But I still kind of recommend that you watch it anyway. The performances in it are pretty good. The directorial flourishes, the use of color and light and dark, it is a pleasure to watch. But as Rebecca, the story, it is monumentally unsatisfying.
Paul says Tom is too picky.
Yeah, I mean, whoops. Whoa, gosh. Yeah, I am. I am too picky. I am a grumpy bastard when it comes to cinema. And like I say, I didn't hate it at all, but yeah.
There's one
I'm going to watch
I didn't hate it. Tom Davies.
Got everyone's favourite generic actor.
So quite a few guys on the thread who are going to watch it straight after we finish this podcast.
Awesome. Do it and tell me how wrong I am. But I love to hear how wrong I am.
Yeah, when the review goes up, tell me you scored it wrong.
He lives for that.
We've had lots of that this week with Back to the Future, because you've been reviewing them, Kaz, on 4K disc.
I have.
I'm waiting till they get a bit cheaper, because I've bought it so many times. I'm not going to pay 50 quid for it. I'll wait till it gets a little bit cheaper. But anyway, I think we all agree, because you asked. I think you asked myself and Andrew when we were proofing the review.
Yes,
9 or a 10 for the movie. It has to be a 10. Back to the Future is the perfect movie. Not saying it's like the best movie ever made, but it is a perfect movie. The way it is constructed, the screenplay, the amount of time, the cutting, the editing, the pacing, the cast. It's lightning in a bottle, and for me, it has to be up there as one of the best put together movies of all time.
Yes, I mean, I really love Back to the Future, and I really loved rewatching it and introducing the kids to it first time they saw it. And they've done a tremendous job restoring it for 4K with Dolby Vision. It's not perfect, and the movie presentations get better as you go along in the series. You can see they put a lot of effort into it, and you can also see that the source elements were perhaps not perfect in it. There was a lot of early effects work done by ILM, I believe, and their form of compositing and optical work didn't make it easier, clearly, to clean it up and look perfect. Looked really good, but there were a few moments where it dropped in quality. But I think any fan can find that.
I think you've got to expect that as well, really.
Yes,
you're talking about something that's shot on 35mm film. Quite often, shots are slightly out of focus because they didn't realize they were out of focus until looked at the dailies the next day, and they couldn't reshoot it because, in case of Back to the Future, they had to shoot the bloody thing twice as it is.
Yeah.
You're talking about optical effects in the 80s and before that. Obviously, you were optically printing one piece of film onto another piece of film, so you got degradation that way. In the second and third films, it's interesting because they were starting to use I think they were the first films to use digital compositing. So the resolution and digital compositing back in 89 and 90 was significantly less than the resolution of the actual camera negative. So you'll see a sudden change in resolution from a nice, clean, just a non-effect. Well, part of the reason why the third one looks so good is because there's very few effects in it. It's mostly just
shot in the Wild West, isn't it? Models. A lot of it was models.
Model work. So it all looks superb. But all things considered, looks fantastic.
The third one's the best one, isn't it, Kaz? The third one.
I actually really love all the films. But I
do. I really do.
I did once meet a friend of a friend who pretty much introduced himself as his favorite movie of all time was Back to the Future 3, and it was definitively the best of the three films. I don't think I've ever spoken to him again, but I did think that was certainly a unique perspective. I'll hear that argument. I won't agree with it.
What is extremists saying? The best Godfather movie is Godfather Part 3, is it?
Yes. I mean, it is nice that they did the West. I did think it was an interesting direction to go in, and it is a near perfect trilogy.
It's the best Back to the Future film with ZZ Top in it. You can say that beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah, no, I think you hit an important point there. As a trilogy, it's strong. It really is a strong set of films, even though they have their faults and so on. And I don't understand the hate for 2, or maybe not hate, but the fact that people don't rate 2.
I think
it's really
it's one of the really clever sequels.
It's seriously
really
clever. Seriously clever.
Yeah. The amount of planning.
Yeah, it's like Tenet, but you can hear the dialogue.
Yeah, just don't look too closely at the timelines and paradoxes and all that kind of thing. Because it just doesn't really make much sense. But yeah, for me,
did you see that thread on Reddit though, where someone did the most soul-destroying issue with time travel on Earth I've yet seen, where it makes a valid point that if you travel back to the DeLorean moves relative to itself and then moves in time. So if you went from, what was it, October the 21st, 1985, is it to 1955?
I can see where this is going.
The Earth would not be where
the Earth would not be where the DeLorean wound up. So it would be a short
through time and space.
A short film where Michael J. Fox asphyxiates in an 80s car in the middle of deep space. Roll the credits.
Before that, Einstein would die.
So yeah, but no, that had never even occurred to me.
These things are entertainment, so they're not science fact.
Oh really?
Although the thing in 2, Biff Tannen that was Donald Trump, wasn't it? That's who they based that on.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked. Only in rewatching it, I noticed that the guy Thompson, isn't it, who plays Biff Tannen, he does a tremendous job because he plays Biff as old Biff, who's actually quite cunning, and he plays Griff, who's his grandchild, who's a cyborg.
Yeah,
and then he plays dumb Biff, the young Biff. He's got quite a range in that. He's
got one of my favourite lines when he goes, "Have you got a safe? You haven't got a safe. Get a safe." When he goes through the realization he's talking to himself, he's like, I've got a safe.
Richard Simpson, I think people dislike 2 because it's darker and not as fun. And also nowhere near as incestuous. Let's also.
Ed, that's the best part.
Yeah.
Come on, his mum was a fox.
No, Mary Steenburgen in the third one's my personal favourite.
Right. Okay.
One quick question though, which is the extras. If it had, the only problem with this set is it hasn't got the one extra that I would literally kill to see, which is the hour and 15-minute cut they put together with all the footage they shot with Eric Stoltz, because they'd shot 3/4 of the movie with him. And I would just love to see a different version of the film with a completely different take from the lead actor and less comedic, to be honest, which is why they sacked him. But it would be fascinating to see something you're so familiar with. I'll just send the picture again. Something you're so familiar with, done from a completely different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
sure there are legal reasons why they couldn't include it, or maybe Eric Stoltz doesn't want to include it, but I'd love to see that footage.
I have a feeling that that some of it might be a little bit legal reasons in it, because and also, as you say, you got to imagine how much they're going to pay Eric Stoltz royalties to do it, and how much cleanup work they'll do. It's not. I don't think it's going to be perhaps received like, new cut of the Justice League, or Superman 2. Because people already think it's the perfect movie, and who's going to invest that money in a curio? But it would have been interesting if they'd done something more than just a few deleted scenes and kind of
the audition tapes.
The audition, yeah. Anyway, it's a great set. It's highly recommended, and I would have recommended you enter the competition, Phil, but you can't.
No, I'm not allowed. Anybody but me is allowed to enter the competitions. Right, before we move on, Joker has donated £8.04. Thank you. Very specific there, but thank you very much. It is appreciated. And his question is, do you think 4K restorations are significantly improving for movies or movies? Yeah, I mean, if it's shot on film, 35mm film or above, the resolution is certainly there, or resolution should be there. Don't mistake resolution though for director's intent. If they intend it to look soft, that's not a lack of resolution, or they've made a mistake transfer. That's supposed to look that way. And like Steve says as well, a lot of older films, you will get, even in the same scene, different shots, different camera angles. Some will be out of focus because, like you say, they don't see the dailies till the day after, and sometimes it's too late or too expensive to reshoot and so on. So the only thing with doing them for 4K, and if they're done right and the love and care is taken, and love and care has to be taken with all movies when you're putting them on other formats. Kaz will back me up on this one. He's been unfortunate.
Totally.
Bought some pretty awful 4K releases from Germany recently.
Has fallen, yeah. and you know what? The original Iron Man trilogy, before the Marvel and Disney released them properly, that shows what you can do with a computer and just kind of generic application of Dolby Vision and HDR and no real care and attention. Standard grading, DNR throughout. Oh, look, it looks clean. Let's stick that on a disc. I think you're absolutely right, Phil. It's some of the best 4K restorations I've seen. Studio Canal, things like Angel Heart. I mean, they're films that I'd never thought would work on the format, but
Flash
they really
Gordon,
put some
unbelievably good.
Flash Gordon, yeah.
Yeah, they put some care and effort into it. Flash Gordon looks stunning, and the Dolby Vision on that. There's some of the best implementation, and I know it's not what people expect in a kind of a John Wick sequels way, but it looked gorgeous. I mean, it helped that the sets were insane, but yeah.
Just
so I hope
quickly,
that answers your question.
Andrew Rice on the live feed has said, "So glad they're not remaking Back to the Future." Give it time, Andrew.
No,
haven't
That
they
won't
said
happen
they
as
won't?
long as
as long as Bob
Zemeckis is
Gale's
alive.
and Zemeckis is alive, that won't
Yeah,
happen.
Because they own the rights.
I mean, neither of them are immortal. Just putting that out there. It'll happen. It will.
What, going back to the year 1990?
Oh man, I would watch that. That sounds great.
Well, the first thing Doc will say now is that whatever you do, Marty, don't go to 2020. Right, let's move it on. And we're going to talk quickly some TV news. So Discovery, did everybody watch it? Did anybody watch it?
Yes, it was trash.
Yeah.
I think I watched it.
Right. What did you think, Steve? I'm going to come to Steve first.
Now that they've essentially detached themselves from Star Trek, it's more watchable because it's like, it's just a generic sci-fi series with some very high production values. So, scope ratio, good effects. It looks the business. It's got nothing to do with Star Trek, and therefore it's more watchable. I think, it's like everything else that's written by Abrams / Kurtzman / Orchie, whoever it is. Kurtzman, isn't it? I think. It's lots of setup, lots of stuff with probably none of which will be explained in a satisfactory manner. It rattled along at a fast pace so fast you couldn't stop to question things. But
I don't like her.
No, but
it's definitely one of the issues with it is that first of all, why is she called Michael?
Yeah, no, I didn't mind
for
her
fun.
too much in the last two seasons because she wasn't on screen all the time. You had a good mix of characters and so on, and even though they weren't great, it wasn't great TV. It was watchable, and season 2 especially, you could see the production values were upped, and the effects were better, shooting in scope and so on. This episode, the first episode, it was good, but she grated on me too much.
She has a lot of defenders on the forum. I was kind of surprised by it because, Burnham's sad face, it makes me cringe. I can't look at it because I think it is so bad. But she has a lot of defenders on the forum, so there may be something that we're missing. I mean, there isn't, but there may be.
Isn't that just her face?
Yeah, that's
I like the new guy.
Book was good.
Yeah,
he
was
good.
I
He's
think
actually quite a good character.
Yeah, I think his
good actor too.
Verbal slapdown with Burnham was very satisfying.
I could see where they're going there. They're trying to make two equals, weren't they? Really, he was the equal of her, basically.
When you say equal, do you mean a love interest, Phil? Because I agree.
Well, now you can forget that she's meant to be in some bizarre way related to Spock.
Yes, that didn't make any sense.
Forget all that cobblers because that never made any sense to begin with.
In love with Clem Fandango, that's gone. That's not happening anymore. So, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, like you say, Steve. It's 900 and whatever years into the future.
Everyone still speaks the same language, and she somehow manages to. Technology's changed quite a bit in the last 1,000 years. You'd think in another 1,000 years you'd just be like a caveman to them, wouldn't you?
No, it's basically the same technology.
And there's that poor guy who's in that space station for like
you can't
50
track
years.
people. You can't track people who transport into water. That's science. That is.
Well, what about that guy who's been in that space station?
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is I didn't hate it.
I did.
I'll give it a bit more chance. One thing I have noticed, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, maybe it was just because my payment details had, my credit card had expired on Disney Plus. Although I've paid for a year, I couldn't get it to work the other night. Every time I selected something, it came up with, cannot connect to your account. Please try again later. And it did
on which TV were you using?
I used everything. So I went on the Mac. I checked on the web portal. Checked on the Apple TV. I checked on the TV that I've got here. Every time I opened my account, put my details in and so on, and I went to watch something, it would come up with unable to connect to your account. But when I went on the online portal, it said your payment details need to be updated because your card's expired. As soon as I did that, everything worked. So I paid for a year.
They're on the money, aren't they? Literally.
That's a you problem, Phil, because we've been watching Puppy Dog Pals just fine.
But the annoying thing is, I've still got to March before I have to pay again, yet they'd stopped me accessing the content I've already paid for because my card was out of date on the account. It was just like, yeah, come on, Disney. Yeah, still got a few months yet before.
The evil empire.
Yeah, they're going to be running everything soon.
No, they ain't. Not anymore.
Right, and to close off,
oh, how annoyed would you have been if that had been the end of the month when you were trying to watch The Mandalorian?
I would have been throwing things at the. Yeah, I would have been throwing things.
You can throw things at the television because you've got spares. I don't recommend that for anyone else.
Your Philips is damaged. I have no idea what happened there. Sorry, must have been damaged.
No, it's in the shape of a boot. But
yeah, right. So, Kaz, you wanted to quickly mention Jeff Bridges at the end here.
Yeah, poor Jeff Bridges is ill. It was absolutely devastating news.
Not my fault. I haven't been looking him up.
No, I did make a note that.
And I won't look him up,
Steve. Yeah, just don't look up. Yeah, basically, don't look up anybody good.
2020, if you do this, I swear to God.
I've been furiously searching about Donald Trump, but that doesn't seem to have any effect yet.
Yeah, pity.
But yeah, I hope he has a speedy recovery. I think he's only 70, and
it was nice to see the range of people on Twitter extending their support to him. It was
he's
a rare moment.
The dude abides, isn't he?
He's a very, very cool dude, and I hope he.
He really ties this planet together, man.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes after Bowie, it's all going. I mean, that's the end of it, isn't it? But he might as well just shut up shop and leave.
Well, on that bombshell.
Yeah. So, podcast competition, Kaz.
Sure. Who has not starred in a film directed by District 9's Neil Blomkamp? It's not an open question. Select the right answer from the answers, because you could probably pick a lot of names out of the hat. But go to the competition. Pick the right answer from that. Who was not in a Neil Blomkamp film?
AVForums.com/competitions is how you find that. And that's it for this week. So my thanks to Steve Withers.
Reports of my assimilation have been greatly exaggerated.
Tom Davies.
If you're referring to sexuality, I am fully functional.
Oh, sorry. Selley.
You told him about the statue.
And Kaz Harlow.
0.68 seconds for an android. That is nearly an eternity.
If you enjoyed this podcast, then please like and subscribe, and obviously click the notification bell as well to be informed every time we upload new videos. And like I say, the review videos are coming. I'm working on one as we speak, so it should be up this week. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. You can bookmark AVForums.com for latest reviews, news, and videos. Plus, leave us a 5-star rating on any of the podcast providers that who allow that. And we'll be back again next Wednesday. So I'm Phil Hinton. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.